Right now, right now. 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 Oh, I got a real good feeling.
We try to bring you high-quality educational and informational content every single day. Why do you think the price is having such an anemic time? The news story of the hour. Jump onto the chart. Is this the beginning of a massive financial unraveling? We got to add a little addendum to the show map today. So we start here on the daily. Now, we've been looking at the RSI on Bitcoin's daily chart for the last several days. They always have been, but it's been increasing over the last 50 years since the government has been getting bigger. Hey guys, what's going on? Jebb here, and welcome back to Coffee and Crypto Live. This is your morning show where we bring you the latest in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency technical, on-chain, and fundamental analysis. And today, we are going to be talking about the demise of BlockFi. Unfortunately, the FTX contagion and the destruction of cryptocurrency has finally hit home. As I've told you guys, because I like to be transparent with you where I've made mistakes, and I have made a mistake. I had a little bit of Bitcoin on BlockFi, and BlockFi has now officially announced as of yesterday that they are filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection following the destruction of FTX, which had given them a $250 million line of revolving credit. We're going to talk about that story today, and we're also going to be taking a close look at Elon Musk's Twitter, because we have not done an Elon Musk Twitter recap. We got to come with a better name for that. Recently, we have not done the Elon Watch. We haven't done the Elon Watch just yet over the last week or so. And there's been quite a few amusing, politically charged, and very, very, very important tweets that have come out of his Twitter account. So we're going to be looking at that as well, and taking a close look at the Bitcoin charts and looking at where they may head over the next several weeks. By the way, dozens and dozens and dozens, I think maybe even over 100 of you guys got the Lux Algo Lifetime sale. So shout out to everybody who got Lux Algo Lifetime. You are going to be so very thankful that you got that. Let's go ahead and read some chat. Let's go ahead and check it out. All right, we got a ton of people in chat already. 108 people tuning in. Thank you guys so very much for tuning in. 162 people in chat, actually. 30 likes. Let's go ahead and smash those likes. Pump them on up. Rock and Metal News said, hey guys, so you were first, so cheers to Rock and Metal News. I just like to cheers whoever was first. As you guys know, I'm using my famous husband coffee mug. This was given to me by my wife. I've shown you guys this thing so many times. You can see it says good looking, 800%. I'll take it. I don't know. I'm probably more like 700%, but she likes to flatter me. We had a great time last night, guys. We went out and saw some Christmas lights with our son Malachi, and they have this like 40-foot tall Christmas tree. And this Christmas tree, Malachi and I like ran, and it's like 25 feet in diameter. So I was chasing him around the Christmas tree, and then this other kid and their family walked up, and so they were all chasing each other. It was so much fun. It was great. So we got to have a great time with him. Went out and got some ice cream with our son. That was wonderful. So cheers to you guys. Love me some coffee in the morning. Been a really good couple of days. Really very thankful for all the blessings the Lord has given us. Anyway, Mike Lowry in chat said, good morning, my CNC family. Hashtag FinSolve. A mellow fellow said that you were first. A mellow fellow, you were not first today, but you have been first in the past, and you have been here for a very long time. So shout out to your loyalty and your continued support here of the channel. Jeremy Shorter in chat. Shadrach Frost in chat. Mike Lowry once again in chat. Hello from Kentucky, Tom M. said. Hello from Kentucky. We were in Kentucky a while back. The only real memory that we have of Kentucky was being stuck in a 2-hour-long traffic jam and going to the Corvette Museum. But it was wonderful up there nevertheless. Mike Lowry and Matt C. in chat as well. Just Ray. Sorry, I should just say Ray because it's just Ray is in chat. Said good morning. Crypto Mini Bike in chat. Tom M. A lot of people tuning in. It's going to be a great stream today. Shadrach Frost, member for 15 months, quoting Psalms. Love it, man. Good to hear you quote in the Bible, Psalm 31:24, be of good courage, and he shall strengthen your heart, all you who hope in the Lord. Amen. Joshua 1:9, do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. That's another good one. I'm paraphrasing that just slightly, but it is wonderful. Okay, call it Musk Watch. Musk Watch. It's a Musk Watch. Yeah, it's a must watch Musk Watch. There we go. That's gonna be the tongue twister that tests my ability to actually speak as quickly as I normally do. Let's go ahead and start off with the Musk Watch. I think that's great. Let me make sure I give credit to where it's due. Who came up with that? Because that's pretty funny. CBD Suddy. Okay, so shout out to Mr. CBD Suddy. We're back to Crypto Jebb. What's up, Jordan? Hello. Likes are low. Hit the likes, people. Eric Brubaker said, yes, I agree. We need to get those likes up. Let's go ahead and do our Musk watch. We need to see what Mr. Musk has been doing over here on Twitter. It's really funny. Everyone I talk to, especially everybody in business circles, they just keep talking about Elon Musk. I talk to one person, he's like, yeah, we'll do this. And look, this is what Elon Musk would say. And then the other person says, look, do this. And this is what Elon Musk is doing. The mainstream media is giving Elon Musk so much hate, and the public does not care because the public is so sold out for Elon Musk to the point where we need to be very careful about idolizing him because he's not God and he is a flawed man just like the rest of us. That being said, I think he's doing a great job with Twitter so far. Of course, there are people that are working 75, 80 hours a week and they don't really have much of a choice. But look, participation in Twitter 2.0 is voluntary. He's not a slave driver. He has the ability. You have the ability to leave Twitter. You're not locked into your employment at Twitter. So if you don't like the way that it's operating under the new leadership, then that employee has every right to leave, and many of them have at this point. This is what he says, and I totally agree. This is a battle for the future of civilization. If free speech is lost, even in America, tyranny is all that lies ahead. Let's just pause there for a second. We're going to get to cryptocurrency, but guys, before we can even talk about cryptocurrency, we got to make sure that there's a world to go to after we make our gains. If we're living in 1984, you can make all the money you want, and it's going to be confiscated by the central government. I won't even go into what's going on in some parts of the world with certain protests that are not allowed to be happening because I don't know whether YouTube's going to shut me down for talking about it. But my point is that if you allow freedom of speech to disappear in the United States, because it's the only place where it really, truly, fully exists, if you could even say that it does anymore, then you have no hope of it remaining anywhere else in the world. The United States is the creator of a government-sanctioned freedom of speech in the Constitution that the rest of the free world has tried to follow and now seems to be reneging on. He's totally right in that. He's totally right. If you lose freedom of speech in the United States, you lose it all around the world. He also quoted Mark Andreessen, who was himself quoting Franklin Delano Roosevelt. We look forward to a world founded upon 4 essential human freedoms. The first is freedom of speech and expression everywhere in the world. There's a reason it's the First Amendment. This is very interesting to me, and I will definitely be covering this on the channel when this comes out, even if it's not directly related to cryptocurrency. It is directly related to the very fabric of our society itself. The Twitter files on free speech suppression, soon to be published on Twitter itself. The public deserves to know what really happened. I'm very curious to know what really happened. We'll definitely be on the lookout for that. Let's continue reading on through his Twitter here. Some very interesting things. He said, did you know Apple puts a secret, and it's funny that says spoiler alert, Apple puts a secret 30% tax on everything you buy through their app store. This is something that if you'll remember about 2 years ago, Fortnite did a parody of well, it's even right here. Fortnite did a parody of the famous 1984, won't be like 1984 Apple commercial where Apple had turned into Big Brother and all the people that were playing Fortnite were the people that were, subservient to Apple. This was a really funny commercial. I remember when this took place. But he's right, and Fortnite was right. And so Elon Musk is accurately the only accurate way to describe it is that he's literally trying to pick a fight with Apple because Apple would either potentially could either censor Twitter off of the App Store. You can see this. Apple has also threatened to withhold Twitter from its App Store, but won't tell us why. And then they also are going to charge 30%, which I get it. It's their store. They make the fee, whatever. But if they're holding Twitter off of the App Store, then Elon Musk is basically threatened to go ahead and make his own phone, which would be like, dude, you can't just, you can, you did it before. You can't just go and create 2 massive new companies out of nothing. But he's done it before. He did it with SpaceX and Tesla at the exact same time. So I guess he could rebuild Twitter from the inside out and then go build his own phone at the same time because he did say that he would. So we'll see what happens with that. I thought that this down here, where is it, was really, really funny. It was him picking a fight with Elon Musk. It said declare war. He deleted it. Where'd it go? That sucks. You guys probably know the tweet we're talking about because I think everybody's looking at his tweet. But Twitter. But there was a tweet that he made where it said pay 3% or go to war. And it said Elon's the car drifting into the go to war off ramp. But he also posted this. It's a very interesting picture. Not going to go too much into that. But then there's also this, and I did want to show you this, and then we'll move on to our overview of the cryptocurrency markets. This is a slide deck that he had for a presentation inside of Twitter. We're recruiting, first and foremost. They have stopped most of their layoffs, and they're recruiting aggressively. That's a very important story we want to follow. New user signups at an all-time high, up to 2 million new signups a day. A day. And people are saying all over mainstream media that Twitter is dying. Really. User active minutes also at an all-time high. 8 billion user active minutes per day. All-time high. They're not, by the way, these are not all-time high figures in the last couple of months. Like, these are all-time high figures throughout the entire history of Twitter. That's what we're talking about here. Monthly daily active users passes quarter billion mark at 253 million. You can see ever since July it's been rallying, but it took off when he took over Twitter. Hate speech impressions are lower. They've gone down. I'm not exactly sure how they track that, but you can see reported impersonation spiked then fell, so they jumped and then they fell back down. They've got them back under control, it looks like. And then Twitter 2.0, the everything app. Advertising is entertainment. It shows right here. If you zoom in, you can kind of see it. I don't know if it'll let me. It's not actually going to let me zoom in, but this is basically an example of HBO doing kind of like a poll advertisement form for Are You House Targaryen or whatever from Game of Thrones, video advertising. And then over here, encrypted DMs, long-form tweets, relaunching Blue Verified, and then payments. Remember, he wants to turn Twitter into kind of a payments giant as well. So those are just a few of the things that I was seeing on Elon's Twitter that may be interesting to you, not just for the sake of cryptocurrency, although that is for the sake of cryptocurrency, but also for the sake of just being a citizen of the world and this having a major impact on the fabric of our very civilization, because Twitter is one of the most important, make no mistake, one of the most important applications on the entire internet for shaping the political zeitgeist of our time. It really is. And so we need to make sure we know what is going on that is impacting that. If you think you can just look at charts, if you think you can just look at crypto news or the fact that BlockFi went bankrupt, and just look at what's going on inside of crypto to understand everything that's going on inside of crypto, you are literally living in a bubble. Literally, metaphorically living in a bubble. I mean, that's literally what we mean by the metaphor of living in a bubble, is that you're not looking outside of your little sphere of influence and understanding how other things are impacting it. The Russia-Ukraine war. Huge impact on the cryptocurrency markets in a plethora of ways. Has a massive impact on supply chain dynamics. It has a massive impact on geopolitics. Has a massive impact on whether multi-hundred-billion-dollar companies feel comfortable investing in a new risky asset class like Bitcoin, rather than holding their valuation in the United States dollar, which is growing in strength as we've been sending weapon systems across the pond. You can also look at things like what's going on in China. Not going to touch that because I don't want to get censored here on YouTube. That has a huge impact on what's going on in crypto. The global supply chain issues that are having to do with a lot of Chinese manufacturing being shut down because of some of the electricity concerns that they're running into. They're going into massive blackouts the country over because they're so dependent on coal. And so they've got so many problems going on in China, from a demographic problem where they have so many old people that are starting to retire, and because of the one-child policy, they don't have enough young people to actually support that aging population, to the fact that they're running out of water and desertification is taking over their entire nation, to the fact that you have massive issues with housing, where one of the only places that citizens of the Chinese people, the People's Republic of China, can actually invest is in housing. So people have 2 or 3 houses, and there's a massive housing glut that's eventually going to collapse when people realize, hey, it's going to go into a recession sometime. To the fact that the Chinese Communist Party, which is running the nation, has for a long time solidified their reign by having 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10% GDP growth, but that's not sustainable forever. So they're starting to lose the reasoning that they should be in power in the first place. Going through the list, China is a big impactor on the global stage. And so you need to understand what's going on in China if you want to understand Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. You want to know, here's one reason why. If you understood their concern with how much coal they use, and whereas the West uses mostly natural gas, China uses a lot of coal, which is a lot dirtier than natural gas. That led to them that is one of the reasons why they ended up banning Bitcoin mining. If you had been following the geopolitics of China, you could have seen that coming, because part of it was actually having to do with climate. So my point with all of this is to give you a lot of examples, but also so that you understand that geopolitical, external to cryptocurrency factors and forces have a major impact on the Bitcoin price. They have a huge impact on Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano, Litecoin, whatever it is you're invested in. You cannot simply ignore what's going on in Twitter and the geopolitical realm, and in China, and in Russia and Ukraine, and in Central America with Bitcoin adoption down there. You cannot ignore these things and expect to be well informed on what's going on in crypto. That being said, we also, of course, want to look at crypto. So let's read chat here for just a second, and then we're going to jump on to CoinMarketCap. I'm in a plastic bubble right now, lol. Looks like an ET scene over here. How many countries, Jebb, have you lived in? I have lived in only one, that being the United States, but I have been all over the United States. I've lived all over the Southeast, and I've been all over the country. Hashtag free speech, hashtag peace, hashtag FinSolve. Absolutely. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Let's read a couple more chats here. I can attest that I've definitely used Twitter more since he bought it. Me too. Elon said it himself, and he's totally right. It is the most interesting place on the internet. Most interesting place on the internet right now. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. Weasley T, how far do you think free speech should be allowed to go? Do you believe, as an example, that someone should be allowed to yell fire in a crowded theater with no consequences? That's not necessarily what freedom of speech entails. I have an opinion on that, but I'd be getting quite a bit off topic to go into that. But in short, yeah, you really that's where people's lives start getting into danger. So anyway, not going to go there, but that is a good question, and a question that needs to be answered by anybody that is talking about freedom of speech. And I do have an opinion on it, but I will leave it for now just for the sake of staying on topic. Speaking of staying on topic, let's go ahead and jump on over to CoinMarketCap and take a look at the price. Bitcoin has been appreciating over the last couple of days, which is very interesting. Very, very, very curious considering all of these articles right here. But nevertheless, Bitcoin is up 1.12% over the last 24 hours. Ethereum up 3.5%. In fact, all of the top 20 cryptocurrencies besides Unis said Leo. Leo said Unis, that's funny, are up over the last 24 hours, and it actually just jumped into the positive as well, literally as we were speaking. So everything's doing pretty well. Surprisingly, Bitcoin is also up 1.4% over the last 7 days. Ethereum up 7% over the last 7 days. Interestingly, I think this may have to do with market capitalization. If we look at the last 3 months, you can see Bitcoin cryptocurrency total market capitalization has been sitting here and bouncing continuously over the $800 billion mark, dropping slightly below it, but not far enough below it and not for long for it to actually be considered breached. Instead, we've actually been able to maintain it. Now, that's not the case over here on the total market capitalization charts as detailed by CoinMarketCap. They're slightly lower because they don't include all of the coins that CoinMarketCap does, but you can see that we've had a pretty major drop out of its triangle pattern right here. But nevertheless, we've still managed to hold $750 billion in market capitalization, indicating that total market capitalization is actually serving as some form of support here on the charts. Coming back to CoinMarketCap, we can see that even though Bitcoin is down 65%, Ethereum is down 68% from all-time high. Binance is down 43% year to date. I'm sorry, not from all-time high. And XRP is down 53%. We've still not managed to drop following this BlockFi news. And so we're going to go through the BlockFi bankruptcy here in a little while. I'm going to break down exactly what happened, what's been going on the last several months regarding BlockFi so that you understand why did BlockFi go bankrupt? How did they go bankrupt? What does this mean if you have money on BlockFi? And what did FTX have to do with all of this? We're going to jump into all of that, but I want to jump into Bitcoin TA here a little bit before we dive into BlockFi. If you have any questions regarding what took place with BlockFi, I would love for you to give me some so you can tee me up because I can give you that information to the best of my ability. Let's look at the 1 hourly chart on Bitcoin and use Lux Algo that I know you guys are just in love with. Lux Algo right now, interestingly, flashed a buy signal. That's very peculiar because Bitcoin, well, actually, it makes sense, but it's very peculiar that Bitcoin went through this movement that would trigger a buy signal. We see the buy signal right here, but that's mainly because Bitcoin went through this giant movement and rallied all the way up to $16,500 and actually put in this inverse head and shoulders pattern. If you'll remember, we come over here to @BlockFi on Twitter, then you're going to see, and it's really interesting to me that BlockFi only has 167,000 followers, but you can see 23 hours ago at exactly 10:37 a.m., which was almost 24 hours ago right now, that's when BlockFi announced on Twitter they were filing for bankruptcy. Now, there were actually some articles that came out a few minutes before this, so they must have told the media before they told Twitter, but nevertheless, that makes sense. BlockFi was kind of a more traditional company than most in crypto, but anyway, let's just do what we normally do whenever there's major news in the cryptocurrency space that could impact the price of Bitcoin. Let's go back and look at exactly where the price of Bitcoin was when the news breaks. This is where it was. It was right here. Let me just come right there It's 1 minute to the right of that. 1 minute ahead of that. Let's just move it right over here. It was at 10:37. This is the moment that BlockFi announced on Twitter that they were going bankrupt. Today, BlockFi filed voluntary cases under Chapter 11 of the United States Bankruptcy Code. And you can even see right below this, acting in the best interest of our clients is our top focus and continues to guide our path forward. Chapter 11 is a transparent process, and we will continue to communicate with our clients to ensure they hear directly from us. Additional information can be found on our blog, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We know the community has a lot of questions. This is the last post that they made. That was 6 days ago. This was basically an FAQ, and a lot of people wondering whether or not they have to pay back their BlockFi credit card. Hint, hint, I don't know whether or not you actually have to, but that would be the ethical thing to do for everybody else who is on BlockFi and is probably hoping to get some of their money back. Paying back your credit card would be one way of ethically helping to support BlockFi in its bankruptcy proceedings so that everybody else that has money on BlockFi has more to go around so that hopefully they're able to get their money back. Not telling you what to do, just my 2 cents on it. Anyway. So 10:37 a.m. rolls around, and you see BlockFi goes bankrupt. Bitcoin was already in a downtrend right here. It had already tried to break to the upside and then started falling over. It was already pretty much moving to the downside. Let's look at the 5-minute chart here to get a little bit more perspective. I can virtually guarantee you we were under a sell signal. Yes, we were. I did not check that. I could just tell by now from the way that the market moves. But you can see the strong sell signal. The reversal zones were already opening up. We'd already had trend catcher red. We'd already had EQ cloud starting to, well, it was actually expanding when that news came out. But it was, well, yeah, okay, so that I take that back. That was a counter indicator. But we had the strong sell signal, the trend catcher turning red, reversal signals doing this. And then this news came out, and yes, we had this big drop right here, but the only real price action I can attribute to BlockFi is 40 minutes of negative $172. When FTX went under, I mean, I'd have to go back far more than just what the 5-minute chart can show us, but when FTX went under, we didn't drop $132, we dropped $5,000. So that just goes to show you how much larger FTX was than BlockFi. In fact, we're going to look at this balance sheet over here, and it'll show you just how much bigger FTX was than BlockFi. Because one of my points in showing you what transpired with BlockFi is, one, yes, to report the news and make sure you guys understand it as much as you can, so you have a crystalline understanding moving forward, but also so that you understand that BlockFi going bankrupt is nowhere near as big of a story as FTX. And for the health of the cryptocurrency market, that's a good thing. If you consider this price action in Bitcoin's timeline here to be a heartbeat, this is a small blip. This is just a small blip on the entire grand scheme of things. And then Bitcoin ends up going right back into a rally, jumping up to $16,500 later on that very same day, moving on into the wee hours of the morning this morning. Bitcoin is already recovered and is already higher than it was when the BlockFi news came out. So the first point we want to make here is that it's safe to say that BlockFi going bankrupt effectively did nothing to Bitcoin, the price. That's very, very, very surprising to me because we've already got so much FUD in the cryptocurrency space that you would think BlockFi going bankrupt would just trigger more sell-offs. You would think that BlockFi going bankrupt would trigger Bitcoin to drop down below critical support at its recent local low at $15,460. Instead, that's not what occurred. Bitcoin managed to maintain itself and hold up here at $16,400 and even rallied less than 12 hours following that bankruptcy. So there's a few reasons that you could argue that Bitcoin didn't have a larger crash. One, you could argue that it was already priced in and we already knew BlockFi was going to go bankrupt. They had already paused withdrawals about 2 weeks ago. They had already looked like they were in dire straits. I mean, we're going to talk about this in a second, but FTX had pretty much bailed them out earlier in the year. And so it kind of made sense that BlockFi was going to go bankrupt. I told you guys 2 or 3 weeks ago, in fact, that about a week after FTX went bankrupt, I told you guys that within 3 months, but probably within the month, you're going to see at least $1 billion company go bankrupt. BlockFi seems to be the culprit. And it's very sad that BlockFi is going bankrupt because BlockFi did do a lot in the cryptocurrency space. BlockFi did sponsor some channels. They never sponsored mine, but I don't fault anybody that they did sponsor because we didn't know what was going on behind the scenes. We knew that they were in a little bit of trouble, but the issue is we didn't know that FTX was in trouble because they were being bailed out by FTX. We didn't know that they were in trouble because we didn't know that FTX was in trouble. The only reason BlockFi was in trouble was because FTX was in trouble. They had a lot of investment in different projects in the cryptocurrency space, and a lot of people did use them for lending and for credit cards, like you guys said. People use them for payments. They were set up to potentially be the next PayPal in the cryptocurrency ecosystem, and that's not what ended up taking place. Instead, they're belly up. So what does that mean for crypto? Well, if we've seen BlockFi go bankrupt already, and it did basically literally nothing to the price of Bitcoin, then what does that mean? Like I said, that either means that it's priced in because there were already signs that it could take place following the FTX disaster. I don't think you could have predicted this before the FTX disaster. After it took place, yeah, it was looking like BlockFi was not in the best shape. But if it didn't have a massive impact on the price, what does that mean? Well, the other argument could be that BlockFi going bankrupt should have dropped the price of Bitcoin, if not for the fact that the FTX crash already shocked the bulls and knocked out every single fake bull that we possibly had. But you're going to see this in an interview that's going up on Friday. But we're the barbarians, guys. We're the barbarians with the clubs that we're raiding Rome, and we're trying to take over the traditional system, and we're trying to rebuild a new system in an image that helps to support the individual, that helps to give individual authorship of their financial future back to themselves, and helps them to have that financial sovereignty that we all crave. It helps us to have total and complete control, maybe not over all of our financial systems because there are a lot of centralized exchanges, but as much control as humanly, physically possible over our currency, over the supply of our currency, over the solvency of our currencies, over the salability of our currencies, that allows us to build our wealth in a way that we don't have to worry about it disappearing through taxes or through inflation or through corrosion or through rust or moths or anything. We have the ability. Now, the world's going to burn one day. I get that. But as far as until that does happen, Bitcoin is going to be the best store of value that you're going to find anywhere on planet Earth. The bedrock is here. The barbarians are at the gates of traditional finance, and that's us. We're the bedrock barbarians, and we're not going down without a fight because we believe in what this industry was founded on. And unfortunately, there are a lot of companies in the cryptocurrency space that do not operate that way. They do operate with a lot of centralized finance backing them. They do operate with a lot of centralized finance principles and traditions. Like, here's one of them from traditional finance that has corrupted a lot of cryptocurrency: fractional reserve banking. It's one of the reasons why we had the 1929 Black Tuesday movement. It's why the Great Depression started, was because of fractional reserve banking. And so we put a bunch of red tape up around the banking sector and said, boom, fixed it. We put a Band-Aid on a bullet hole wound, and we're waiting for the thing to bleed out. And it's been bleeding for the last 90 years. And we expect something different is going to change if we do the exact same thing in crypto, but this time we don't even put the Band-Aid there. We just let it bleed. What happened with FTX was the bleeding out of a system that was always designed to fail. You don't build a fractional reserve banking system and not understand that at some point you could have a bank run, which would cause the entire system to go insolvent and bankrupt. That's what happened with FTX. Sam Bankman-Fried should have known better. He really should have. And it's negligence. At the very best, it's negligence. More realistically, it's criminal. BlockFi was already on their way towards bankruptcy. FTX bailed them out. It looked like they'd get through the bear market because of the $250 million revolving line of credit, which we're going to talk about here in a little while. Then FTX went belly up and they lost their bailout. Another thing from traditional finance that we seem to want to keep emulating: bailouts. Unfortunately, it seems that we have not learned our lesson. But then that still begs the question, why did Bitcoin not drop when BlockFi went under? I think it's because the bears are exhausted. I think that everybody who was going to sell has sold. I think that at the moment anyway, and this could change in a month, but at the moment, everybody who was going to sell, that was going to panic sell, that was going to short, that was going to exit their long position, has already sold. For example, let me just go ahead and bring up a chart over here called liquidations data over on CoinGlass. You can see when BlockFi went bankrupt, we had virtually no long liquidations. I mean, a blip on the radar. Maybe you could say a little bit over here on Binance and BitMEX, but virtually nothing. Back over here, we had seen a ton of short liquidations. Remember, the 1.3 billion short liquidations that took place on October 23rd, 24th, and 25th over on FTX, pretty much all of them taking place on FTX. causing the price to moonshot. Well, everybody saw Bitcoin climb up here to $21,000, which I still think was an FTX manipulation event. Somebody needs to investigate that has more resources than me, because I do think that, from what I can tell, it looks like FTX intentionally manipulated the market to the upside so they could sell their assets at a higher value, dump the price, cash in more cash on hand so that they could last longer and not go bankrupt. I think FTX knew exactly what was coming, and they manipulated the market to try and get themselves out of it. That's a different story, though. From that point, a lot of people were in long positions, so it makes sense when all these long liquidations, when all these longs got squeezed. We had a $500 million there, third of $1 billion there, almost $1 billion in longs got liquidated, and that's not even including over on FTX. So because FTX has been removed from this since it doesn't exist anymore, but a lot of longs got liquidated here and caused the crash. Hardly anybody was long yesterday. So we didn't really have a lot of sell pressure coming in from that event. You can look over here. This is where the right here. Well, let's go to the 30-minute. And let's look for yesterday's price action. You can see right here, we had $8 million in long liquidations, and then immediately we had $8 million in short liquidations. It balanced itself out like almost instantly, and then boom, we forgot about it. It just gone. And the reason is because I think the bulls have been vindicated and the bears are exhausted. So when BlockFi filed for bankruptcy, first of all, a lot of people saw it coming, and second of all, it didn't really make a difference because there was nobody long in the first place to get liquidated because the market was already so low. That tells us multiple things. It tells us, one, that the bears are pretty much exhausted because they have no strength left to sell to push us further to the downside, which does, and I got to admit it, call into question my narrative of Bitcoin dropping down to $13,800. From a technical standpoint, it still looks like that should occur because we have no bullish pressure. But apparently we have no bearish pressure either, because the bears could have jumped on that and sold and shorted the market, and they just didn't. The market didn't drop. It's up almost $1,000 from where it was yesterday, $500 from where it was yesterday when the BlockFi news came out. So it doesn't seem to be that the bears are super strong right now. It just seems to be that the bulls are also very weak, which leads to a lot of sideways movement. Make no mistake, that will not last forever. Eventually, one of the factions will get emboldened. You'll either see a movement to the upside or the downside. But it does lead me to want to reconsider my perspective that Bitcoin will drop down to $13,800. If you remember to yesterday's stream anyway, I showed you guys how Bitcoin was likely going to bottom out somewhere within this box right here. Bottom, rebound, and then breakout. I said BRB. That's what I think the market's going to do. I think it's going to follow generally one of these three lines right here. It's either going to have a very bullish narrative, which based on this BlockFi news looks like may be the case. It's going to have a pretty median, middle of the road narrative, or a more bearish narrative where we drop down to 10,000. At this point, I'm leaning in the direction of one of these two, but probably up here on that top narrative. And remember, guys, what I showed you yesterday, these are all the halving events that have taken place and will take place in Bitcoin. The first four, the three have taken place. One will take place in 481 days. This is how far away we were yesterday. You can see that we were at the bottom, more or less, of all of these markets, especially right here and right here when we were this far away from the halving, which indicates historically and based on the historicity of the market that we should be very close to the bottom. I mean, within weeks of the bottom, if not a month or two, or the bottom could already be in. So it is very possible that the bottom is in at $15,460. I would love for that to be the case, but I need to see some breakout to the upside to see that confirmed. I need to see Bitcoin at least at $23,000, if not higher. I would say more than likely breaking this level of resistance right here, if not even this one, before I am able to confidently say, yep, bull market is back on, bear market is done. So that would be my take on that. And we're going to look a little bit more into some of the news having to do with BlockFi here in a little while and why they went bankrupt. But as far as the impact on the price action, had virtually no impact on the price action. And on top of that, not only did it have virtually no impact on the price action, it also showed us that the bears were exhausted. Honestly, I expected when BlockFi declared bankruptcy, because it was going to happen at some point. I gave it like a 90% likelihood that it was going to happen at some point after they paused withdrawals. It was pretty much written on the wall at that point. I was expecting Bitcoin to drop to new lows. I honestly expected it to drop down to 15,000. And I'm honestly surprised that it didn't. But it does just go to show you that we were already very close to the bottom 2 months ago before FTX went bankrupt. So let's go ahead and read chat a little bit. Really appreciate all of you guys for tuning in. I'm a little bit out of frame, so I'm going to have to adjust the camera. The camera got messed up somehow, so I have to fix that. But as far as the framing. But let's see. Diamond Sauce said, we're barbarians, question mark. Yeah, we don't care about the rules. We're going to smash and break things until they work the way they're supposed to. NMCT donated $2. Thoughts on Chainlink opening up staking in December? I didn't know they were opening up staking in December. Good. Yes, that's wonderful. That's absolutely wonderful. Let's see. Ouch, that's quite the butchering of my name, Jebb. Remember when you used to make fun of people for Tim for doing that? You pronounced my name completely wrong. Yeah. Wisely T. I don't know. Why Isley T? That's funny. All right. Let's see. Is Gemini affected? We're going to take a look at that at some point in the future. Let's see. I think BlockFi was already written into the market. Everyone saw it coming. Yeah, I think you're probably right. Jebb, what if BlockFi wins against Sam and his Robinhood shares? Yeah, we're going to look into that because that could actually bring them back from bankruptcy. Hashtag FinSolve. Smash the likes and show some support for Jebb and his dedication to this show, Shadrach said. Thank you, Shadrach. Crypto Mini Bike said, I love Jebb's TA and his dedication to what he's built. That's why I'm here. Hashtag FinSolve. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. I'm going to paint my face today like Mel Gibson in Braveheart. Oh, man. What was the random crash last summer that had Ether bottom lower than it is now? What caused that? That was Luna. Luna went bankrupt, and there's a lot of speculation that SBF may have been the one that caused that. Watching Jebb making banana pudding. Life is good. There you go. BitBoy is revealing a lot of stuff on FTX and SBF. Yes, he is. He does have some information on that from what I can tell. Very, very interesting what's going on. Jebb, in previous near markets, did exchanges fold like this? Exchanges always fold in markets like this because they're operating on a very stupid model of fractional reserve lending. Here's the deal. A lot of these exchanges want to be able to advertise zero fees. And so the way they advertise zero fees is by not charging fees. And the way that they get to be able to not charge fees is either one, they're huge like Binance and they have so many other revenue streams that it doesn't even matter to them. Or what most exchanges do, I don't know whether Binance does this or not because they haven't made it public. They've acted like they have on CoinMarketCap, but not really. They have fractional reserve lending where you deposit 10 Bitcoin, they keep 1 Bitcoin of it for you or none. That apparently Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX were keeping 0% of your deposit. At least in the United States, you've got to, I forget what it is. I think the banks have to keep 20% of your deposit, which is still ridiculously low. But according to Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX's balance sheet, they were holding, I think it was no Bitcoin. Of course, people had Bitcoin deposits on the platform, so they were holding no reserves for some deposits. But what a lot of these exchanges do is that they hold deposits, that they hold a percentage of the deposit or none of the deposit, and then they go and trade it and they do stuff with the money. They take your money, they hold it, and then they give you an IOU, and then they take the money and they go invest it somewhere, and they try and grow it more aggressively than whatever you'd be able to do by just keeping it in that asset. So these banks are essentially acting like investment banks because these exchanges essentially are acting like investment banks because you're depositing onto the platform to trade. They're taking behind the scenes your assets and doing stuff with them like staking them or putting them into some kind of investment in another company or giving BlockFi a $250 million revolving line of credit or bailing out Voyager or putting it on BitConnect. God only knows. You know, that's what these exchanges do. And it's not good for the end user because if the end users all want to get their money at the same time, it doesn't exist. And the reserves are not there to back up the withdrawals. And that's what happened when we saw a $5 billion withdrawal on a Sunday on FTX, and the next day they went bankrupt. Or they went insolvent, rather, and they had to pause everything, and then they went bankrupt. That's the reason why you need to be careful about that. Anyway, moving right along, let's go ahead and jump into the actual news. Type BlockFi bankrupt into Yahoo or Google or whatever with me, and you will find a ton of articles. One of them right here is this one. I believe I have the article right here. Actually, I have the article right here. Bankrupt BlockFi has launched a lawsuit to get Sam Bankman-Fried to reportedly hand over Robinhood shares. BlockFi has sued Emergent Fidelity Technologies to recover stock pledged as collateral for a loan. The crypto lender says it wants Sam Bankman-Fried's holding company to hand over the shares. The collateral is Robinhood stock, and the borrower was Alameda Research, the FT reported. Bankrupt crypto lender BlockFi sued FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried's holding company to recover Robinhood shares pledged as collateral for a loan. Here's the deal, guys. If you have something in writing, and even if it's not in writing, but it's pledged in a contract to back up something, they have every right to it. FTX has no argument in that case. If that's really the case, FTX is up a creek, and anybody that had money in FTX all of a sudden can expect a little bit less money to get paid out to them in the bankruptcy filings, which will probably take 10 years, the same way it took with Mt. Gox. A lot of people are still trying to get their money from Mt. Gox, even if it's pennies on the dollar. But FTX is probably going to be required to hand over those Robinhood shares. The thing is, FTX is bankrupt. So BlockFi, which is bankrupt, is suing FTX, which is bankrupt. So neither of them have any of the money. And at this point, FTX has probably already liquidated a lot of those Robinhood shares. They're probably not still holding them. So good luck getting money when there's no money. You can demand the money, and that's great. But if there's no money, there's no money. So hopefully BlockFi will get those Robinhood shares because they're entitled to them. But also, hopefully, all the people that are credited in the FTX bankruptcy will get their shares. So it really comes down to who the bankruptcy court that is processing FTX's bankruptcy. This is ridiculous. Two bankrupt companies trying to get stuff from each other. It really comes down to who the bankruptcy court that is processing FTX's bankruptcy is going to credit first, because BlockFi is not the only company that has a right to some of the assets that FTX was holding. So it's really, really, really sad. What would it take for Bitcoin to hit 4 digits? Binance going bankrupt. Binance goes bankrupt, I think Bitcoin hits 9,000. Other than that, I don't think it will. All right. The lawsuit was filed in a New Jersey court Monday, the same day BlockFi filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection, a victim of the collapse of the once $32 billion FTX crypto empire. In the complaint, BlockFi said it had made an agreement with Emergent Fidelity Technologies, which pledged unnamed common stock to guarantee repayments by an unnamed borrower. It said Emergent, whose sole director and majority stakeholder is Bankman-Fried, had defaulted on its obligations under the November 9th deal. Court documents identified the borrower as Alameda Research, the sister trading arm of crypto exchange FTX. Meanwhile, loan documents seen by the FT showed the collateral pledge was Bankman-Fried's stake in Robinhood, the FT report said. He took a 7.6% share in the online brokerage earlier this year. Bankman-Fried and BlockFi did not immediately respond to comment, yada, 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 et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Basically, BlockFi wants his money back so that it can hopefully not go bankrupt, because BlockFi seemingly is not in as tricky of a situation as FTX is. We're going to look at the liquid assets and the liabilities of FTX in a second. There ain't no way to save that ship. Binance tried. They said, nope, we're not going bankrupt also, and they left them to rot. BlockFi, on the other hand, could potentially be brought back from bankruptcy if they're able to get this money from FTX and those shares from FTX and that liquidity from FTX. The problem is they were already on life support in the first place. So how much longer would BlockFi actually last is the question. Crypto firm BlockFi files for bankruptcy as FTX fallout spreads. I jumped ahead a little bit and started talking about what they were doing rather than talking first about the actual fact that they're going bankrupt. So let's look at this. Distressed crypto firm BlockFi has filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection, yada, yada, yada. The company indicated it had more than 100,000 creditors with liabilities and assets ranging from $1 billion to $10 billion. On the bankruptcy filings, it has a list of 1 to 10 million, 10 to 100 million, 100 million to a billion to 10 billion, 10 billion to 100 billion, 100 billion to a trillion. It has all those different listings indicating what their assets and liabilities range from. So not quite as large as FTX, but still over $1 billion. The company also listed an outstanding $275 million loan to FTX US, the American arm of Sam Bankman-Fried's now bankrupt empire. A BlockFi subsidiary also moved for bankruptcy in Bermuda concurrently with the American filing. BlockFi's bankruptcy filing shows that the company's largest disclosed client has a balance sheet of nearly $28 million. The crypto company, which offers trading, exchange, and interest-bearing custodial services for cryptocurrencies, was one of the many firms to face serious liquidity issues after the implosion of Three Arrows Capital, which had some of their money. This is what I'm talking about lending out your client's assets to other people, whether it be Three Arrows Capital or whether it be Alameda, whoever it is. You are playing dice with your client's capital, and it is not in the best interest of the consumer. The SEC really ought to be looking into this, because this actually is something that is within the SEC's jurisdiction. They are called the Securities and Exchange Commission, so they should be over exchanges. I think cryptocurrency needs its own branch of the federal government to regulate it, if it's going to be regulated at all, which it needs to be. But at the moment, this is within the SEC's jurisdiction, and Gary Gensler has a whole lot of egg on his face right now, and he's able now to use both of these bankruptcies to go before Congress and say, crypto is dangerous, so we need to regulate the hell out of it. So that's what we're going to be looking at now, is the SEC is going to be coming hard for crypto. So just be on the lookout for that. BlockFi, which was last valued at $4.8 billion according to PitchBook, is among many crypto firms feeling the pressure of FTX's collapse. In July, FTX swooped in to help BlockFi to stave off bankruptcy by extending a $400 million revolving credit facility and offering to potentially buy the beleaguered lender. They did not buy them, but as you can see over here on Crunchbase.com, they did in fact give them $400 million of debt financing, lead investor being FTX.US. Number of investors, 1. Money raised $400 million. And like we said, it was debt financing to help BlockFi stave off bankruptcy. Now, you can also see, I have the articles over here where this was being reported. It's really interesting. There's two different numbers floating around. There's 400 million and 250 million. The real number is 400 million, so I'm not sure why people are saying 250 million. But even at the time, back on June 21st, when this news broke, people were saying that BlockFi received a $250 million credit facility from FTX. The proceeds will be used to fulfill client balances across all accounts. This is an article from back then. Zach Prince, the CEO of FTX, said today at BlockFi signed a term sheet with FTX official to secure a $250 million revolving credit facility, providing us with access to capital that further bolsters our balance sheet and platform strength, indicating that at the time he was at least saying that there was strength in the platform. The thing is, if there was strength in the platform, then it wouldn't have needed this. So, yeah, maybe I'm being too picky with that. But nevertheless, here is the actual blog post on BlockFi's page themselves. BlockFi signs a landmark term sheet with FTX to provide a $250 million credit facility, even though it is officially recorded as $400 million in many different places. Really interested to see why that is. I think $150 million of it may have been either just straight up investment in stock. I'm not exactly sure, but it totaled $400 million, not just the $250. But a lot of that $250 million was backed by some of Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX's holdings in Robinhood. So that's why they are now suing them to try and get those Robinhood shares, because they were owed, as you can see, and this is the coup de grace of what I want to say here, they were owed $215 million at the time of FTX's bankruptcy. This is over on Visual Capitalist. You guys know Visual Capitalist. We have used their graphics many times, and this is one that we've actually looked through here before on the channel, but I want to look through it again. At the time of the bankruptcy filing for FTX, which happened, I believe it was November 11th. This is November 10th. I believe this is the day before. This is just 3 weeks ago. Liabilities for FTX totaled $8.9 billion. Their liquid assets totaled $900 million. So they had an $8 billion discrepancy. Nearly $9 billion in liabilities, $900 million in liquid assets, which basically means that they had taken all of these on deposits. People had deposited $5 billion on the platform. They had deposited $1.4 billion in BTC, $672 million in ETH. And they also owed Genesis $200 million. They also had $115 million of euros and $800 million of USDT, $268 million of other things. They had investment in Layer Zero. And they had $215 million in a revolving credit line left to pay out to BlockFi that BlockFi was tapping into as it needed it. It seemed like BlockFi had what was known in business as a runway. Essentially what a runway is it is measured in months, and it's the amount of time that a company can survive while taking a loss without going bankrupt. It seemed that in the 5 months since June, January, February, March, April, May, June. In the 5 months since June, BlockFi had gone through $35 million of that credit facility, and they were basically sitting at zero, and they were tapping into that every single month because that was their runway. It seems like FTX essentially extended them a runway so that they could lose $5 or $10 million every single month and continue to be operating, so that they wouldn't have to actually go bankrupt, but so that they'd also be able to survive operating the way that they normally did through the bear market. This is something that happens very often in business. Whenever a business goes through a year or two of hard times, it will secure debt financing for that year or two. It'll secure a 24 to 36 month runway, and that's plenty of time to turn a company around so that it becomes profitable again, and then you don't have to worry about going bankrupt. The issue is that you bet the farm on that debt financing, and that's what they did with FTX. FTX was the financier of that $250 million loan. And as you can see, the discrepancy between $250 million and $215 million is $35 million. They had another $215 million to go off of. When this dried up, it seems like they had about 3 weeks to live, because BlockFi declared bankruptcy less than 20 days after FTX did, because they were tapping into this. And this is another point I wanted to make to you. And that is that is the fact that we have seen BlockFi so much smaller than FTX. FTX was a vastly, vastly larger company than FTX, as you can see here on the assets. Liquid assets, 900 million. More than half of FTX's liquid assets were in Robinhood stock. You see how this all ties together. BlockFi was being financed by FTX. FTX was financing BlockFi with $472 million in Robinhood stock. So basically, BlockFi declares bankruptcy because they no longer have the assets that FTX was promising them, because FTX went bankrupt, because FTX was overinvested in their own token. You can see FTT right here. This is after FTT crashed. They used to have, this is $5.5 billion on November 10th. This used to be probably $5 billion of FTT token because they were massively invested in their own project, which is stupid. And then pretty much all they had to go off of was Robinhood stock. BlockFi then was basically backed by Robinhood with FTX as the intermediary. So BlockFi is trying to go through FTX and get to this Robinhood stock so that Robinhood stock can be liquidated and pay BlockFi so that BlockFi doesn't go bankrupt. That's what they're trying to do here. It's probably not going to work because, as you can see, it's not just BlockFi that FTX owes money to. They also owe money to all of these different customers over here that had deposited ETH, BTC, USD, other stablecoins, US dollar Tether, euros. They also owed money to Genesis, Layer Zero. Be on the lookout for Genesis because, remember, they owed Genesis $200 million also, when they had almost no assets to cover it. They had these other assets over here. These are illiquid. They could not liquidate these in time. Solana crashed a couple of days after this, so they didn't have the assets here to do this. SRM, they had so much money in SRM. They're one of the biggest investors. They would have completely collapsed the price. They never would have gotten $2.2 billion out of this. Same thing with FTT. FTT was worth nothing. Who are they going to sell it to? It's already been disgraced. They already declared bankruptcy. They already went insolvent. Maps, you could have liquidated for some, but you don't have the ability to actually liquidate this and get $5.5 billion. All of the, when you liquidate these assets, you crash the price and you maybe get $1 billion or $2 billion out of here. So this is an inflated number. This is market value. This is not actual liquidation value. Liquidating these assets would have crashed the price. Liquidating Robinhood would not have crashed the price because Robinhood had a lot more on the market than just this $472 million. That's why this is listed in liquid assets, whereas all of these assets were very small altcoins. Another reason why you don't invest most of an exchange's assets in small cap altcoins, because if you ever need to liquidate them, then you crash the small cap altcoin and you screw over everybody that was invested in the altcoin, but also you don't have the ability to get the assets out so you can pay your creditors. And that's exactly what took place on FTX and now is leading BlockFi to be bankrupt. So, what does this mean? Let me just wrap this all up in a bow so that you have something pithy that you can walk away from. FTX was heavily invested in their own token FTT. When FTT dropped below a certain value, FTX no longer had the ability to dip into their vast FTT reserves to be able to pay their creditors, the people that deposit on the exchange, back. They then went insolvent and bankrupt. However, BlockFi was one of the creditors to FTX, the same way that if you had $100,000 of deposits on FTX, you were a creditor to FTX. You gave them money. Well, BlockFi was basically given money by FTX and was owed money. So you deposit money on the platform, FTX owes you. FTX also owed, under an obligation, money, $215 million to be exact, to BlockFi on November 10th of 2022. All of a sudden, all the creditors can't get their money back because the money's not there. So a company owes $100,000, it's got $10,000. What do? Well, you split it up and you give everybody a tenth of what they're owed. So BlockFi at this point would be very lucky to get $20 million out of FTX, and it could take years. It's not quick enough. FTX is going to go bankrupt and insolvent before then, which they're already insolvent. They're going to go bankrupt fully before then. So any hope of BlockFi trying to get those Robinhood shares out of FTX has a very slim chance of actually going through. And the reason is because FTX owes money to so many people. The other reason is that BlockFi needs the money now. It's their money and they need it now. It's actually FTX's money, but FTX promised them, so they need to give it to them, but they can't because they don't have it. Well, they do have it, but they owe so many people money that they can't necessarily just put BlockFi first. A lot of times the courts are going to side with the retail because BlockFi is a company, but the retail is who the courts are going to mostly side with. So BlockFi is actually probably, as far as the New Jersey court is looking at, is probably playing second fiddle to all the individual creditors to FTX. So BlockFi can sue them all they want, but they're probably not going to get those Robinhood shares liquidated so that they can become liquid again. Unfortunately, I have no other alternative explanation than to tell you that this seems to be the complete end of BlockFi, and it seems to be the end of FTX. That being said, there is a potential that we could see another bailout in the cryptocurrency industry, like Binance stepping in and bailing out BlockFi. That is possible. Binance has vast cash reserves, almost $70 billion, plenty to revitalize BlockFi, bring them back online, buy them, and then bring them into their own sphere of influence, as they talked about doing with FTX. They talked about doing that with FTX when they knew that FTX was 20 times their size. They looked at the balance sheet, realized it was pointless, and they didn't try. But with something much smaller like BlockFi, it could be a strategically valuable acquisition that Binance could make. So be on the lookout, because it is very possible that Binance would try to buy BlockFi and bail them out of their bankruptcy, bringing them out of bankruptcy, making all the creditors whole, and bringing them back online, and then restructuring them in the Binance way, if you will, that would make them more profitable, and then growing Binance from there. It is possible that Binance, or Coinbase for that matter, could use this as a power move by bailing out the beleaguered crypto lender BlockFi and then taking over the brand and using it for themselves. I don't know that that'll happen, because a lot of these exchanges are very weary of bailing people out right now, because they don't want to go the way of FTX, who was bailing everybody out, like Voyager and BlockFi, which were some of the reasons why FTX went bankrupt in the first place. So a lot of exchanges don't want to take that risk, but if one of them is feeling risky enough, then they could try and buy out BlockFi. Could be good for them. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump on to some chat. Really appreciate all of you guys tuning in. We've got 800 people watching right now. Thank you guys so very much. Go ahead and smash that like button if you haven't already. We've got 283 people that have liked the video. Let's go ahead and smash that like button. Thank you guys. Hey, Jebb, what do you think about BitBoy tracking down Sam in the Bahamas? I know you want to be the first one to find him, but it looks like he beat you to it. Yeah, I'm not really too interested in going and finding Sam Bankman-Fried. I don't really want to be around him. But, no, I haven't actually watched the video yet. I saw the thumbnail. I'm going to watch it today. But he showed up at his, like, condo and started, like, knocking. It's really a funny thumbnail. I saw the thumbnail. I'm looking to see what that is. Yep. Elon should bring BlackBerry back. What do you think, Jebb? BlackBerry, golly. Wow. I mean, he could. If he'd have to buy the brand, right? I mean, who owns BlackBerry? Right? BlackBerry went bankrupt, didn't it? Didn't it? They went. What? Wikipedia is acting like they're. What? BlackBerry's still around? Huh. Oh, they're a cybersecurity firm now. They got 3,000 employees. Wow. Huh. Yeah, I mean, I guess he could. Let's see. Let's look over here at Yahoo Finance. Let's see. Got a market cap of $2.76 billion. That'd be a lot easier than $42 billion for Twitter. I guess he could. That'd be pretty funny. That would be hilarious. That would be so funny if he bought BlackBerry and made it into a new smartphone. That'd be so funny. I don't think it would happen, but it would be really funny. Yeah. Why would any other exchange want to buy FTX when there is an existing backdoor? For real, exactly. That's why Binance pulled out the next day. Hi, Jebb. How are you doing about Cardano? Still bullish? Still bullish on Cardano. Yes, I do still think that. They did have the most secure phones. Yeah, it's possible. BlackBerry's still in business. I did not know that. That's really interesting to me that they managed to pivot. That's really cool. Let's see. Yeah, well, thank you guys so very much for tuning in. If you haven't already, make sure to smash that like button. Really appreciate that. Yeah, I'm very interested to see what Elon does with Twitter. Kinsler's on his private jet with... I don't think so. BitBoy's learning how to play the harmonica. Really? Cool. I didn't know that. Jebb, the crypto sector's main draw for the average investor is the prospect of quick gains. How does the industry separate this basic ideology from future FTX-like situations? Big players want quick bucks. Not so much. The power players in the world are not looking for 500% overnight. They're content to make 20% a year because they're investment banks that have $500 billion under management. It's the retail that wants the quick dollars. It's the retail that wants a quick buck. The thing is, the retail that wants a quick buck, when they don't get it, are going to get burned and they're going to leave. There's a natural selection process that takes place that weeds that out. I'll press gently on the like button, but don't want to smash my keyboard. Oh, man. Jebb, will the path to 100K Bitcoin be bumpy? What would it feel like? It will be bumpy. Absolutely. It will definitely be bumpy. But it's going to happen. I'm very confident that it's going to happen. Never had a BlackBerry. Flair Staking. What's up, Flair? Said, sorry I'm tuning in late. Any thoughts on Tether? I think Tether needs to immediately prove all of their reserves pronto. They needed to do it years ago in as transparent and reliable and as an accountable way as possible, because if Tether goes bankrupt, that's something else that could drop Bitcoin several $1,000s and plunge the market even lower. Elon turning Twitter into super chat. Bringing back BlackBerry be a ridiculously hard move. They left that side of their business for a reason. A few attempts to bring them back failed bad. Yeah, I mean, Elon could literally take the brand and keep nothing of the company and just take the name for the brand recognition and then do something crazy with it. But he could also do a Tesla phone. The thing is that if Elon is going to create his own smartphone, I don't know if he would do it under the Tesla moniker, because his days at Tesla might be numbered. It's very possible. I mean, he's not a majority shareholder. He's the CEO. He's got like 8% of the share. He's the largest individual shareholder. He has the plurality share. But at any point, he could be kicked out as the CEO. But if he bought BlackBerry, he could buy it entirely. And then he would be able to bring in his friends from Tesla and hire some of them if he wanted to, and use them to build a smartphone from nothing. And then he would have total control over it. It would end up making him a lot more money, which is something he might be interested in to help fund his other businesses like Everything X app, etc. Anyway, guys, that's going to have to wrap it for this stream. I really do appreciate all of you guys tuning in and the super chat. Thank you guys so very much. Make sure to go ahead and hit that like button, smash the subscribe button, hit the post notification bell so you'll be updated every single time we go live here on Coffee and Crypto. Before I go, though, I do just first want to thank each and every single last one of you for watching, as always, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.